It's also important to point out that we did a review of the signatures of both parents and teachers. Now, these charters are a little different than the ones we've had in the past. Charters 14 through 18 submitted parent signatures, while the remainder of the charters submitted teacher signatures. So it had a different threshold for number, and we reviewed the parent signatures originally to make sure there was no duplication of parent signatures. That was our only review. Subsequently, we conducted a different review because we were asked, I believe on Monday of this week, how we verified those signatures. And in fact, our process didn't typically verify that those signatures had an interest in actually having their children at the school. So what we did is we did a sampling survey by telephone of a small sample of parents. And we only started that verification process, I believe, this week. I'm thinking it was Tuesday. Where's Lucretia? Yes, it was Tuesday. Okay. So we didn't have a large sample. But in that sample, we found that only about 15% of those that were contacted confirmed that it had a meaningful interest in sending their child to the school. That's information provided to you. It was not a standard we've used in the past, but because we were asked to find that out, we did find that out. In addition, we were asked the same question of how we verify teacher signatures. Our only process in the past was to check if they were credentialed. And the board asked us last time to work with Rocket Ship that if we found a teacher that signed that was needed to meet the threshold of 6, and we thought they didn't have a credential, that we worked with them to find out if we had the name wrong or something like that. They did work with us on these, and every one of them that we thought possibly were not credentialed, we found out were, so they met the threshold on that standard. When we were asked earlier in the week, did these teachers actually have a meaningful interest in working at Rocket Ship, we conducted, again, a sample survey of teachers that had signed, and about 10% of those that were able to be contacted expressed having a meaningful interest in teaching at Rocket Ship. And I don't know why there's that discrepancy, except one of them provided us with a tweet. You know, I don't tweet, so I don't know anything about this, but there's a tweet, and I have it here somewhere that she provided us. And it's apparently from Evan Cohen at Rocket Ship, and it's dated December 3rd, 2011 at 1:20 p.m. from Rocket Ship Education. And it says, this weekend, we need credentialed Bay Area teachers to sign a petition to support more Rocket Ship schools. Call this number. Now, I'm assuming that that was an entry, and then there was some further explanation that we only expect you to sign if you intend to work at this school. But again, we did do that follow-up. We don't consider it a 100% review, but we did want to bring it to your attention. And then lastly, on this recommendation, we want to remind the board of your authority to deny this petition on any other reason that the board determines would merit denial. Education Code 47605.6b6 states that a county board of education may deny a petition for the establishment if there is, quote, any basis that the board finds justifies the denial of the petition. So again, our recommendation is approval, and it is up to you to determine whether or not you believe they've met the standards. We believe that they've met the minimum standards, but we, of course, can't predict what other standards you might use for any other reason. And with that, I believe that's all we have to report. I can answer any questions if you'd like. Oh, the one thing I did want to say is, if you'll indulge me, the letter from County Council does it pretty clearly states that Rocket Ship Education is not an LEA for purpose of citing a school. And as you can see, this is quite an extensive review. It's the same advice that we provided to, I believe it was Eric Schonauer, on or about September 9th. It was our analysis as well that for purposes of school citing, we did not believe that charter schools have the ability to use eminent domain and waive zoning laws and requirements. With that,
there are lots of questions about why 20 schools, why now? Tell me in an easy as possible how you would realistically carry out 20 schools of growth in the next 4 years without diluting your quality. I'm asking that because you had great schools, and then you opened additional schools, and your scores went down. And we have 2 appeals charters that we approved and 5 countywide that we approved, and of those 3 are yet to open. So I have not yet seen the scale of growth that proves to me, okay, they can go at that length and at that steady and still are able to retain and remain these quality and scores. I have not seen that. In fact, you've gone down. So tell me as easy as you can and short as you can how you would manage that.
Preston Smith. So as simple as possible. We've gone through the green lighting process. I'd be happy to do it again. And this is also the metrics and the dashboards that we have in place for us to track performance of school, from everything from teacher satisfaction and retention to student achievement and gains. I think the biggest, probably the simplest answer is we have a performance contract that we proposed with these charters, which I think speaks to that. That our schools, by certain years, are going to hit certain API markers, especially for the students marked who are free and reduced lunch population students. And if we don't hit those markers, then we would not be able to open future charters. And I think that's a level of security that and expectations that no other district right now is offering to anyone. Right? No other district is stating within 3 years schools are going to be at a certain point, or they would actually cease to open any more schools. And forego those charters.
So in other words, you would sort of stop and hold off on opening additional schools, and part of the factor to decide is your scores?
Yes.
Yeah, I think it's instructive, Preston, for those in the audience that don't know about this, and maybe the board that some members might not know, to just review that and those markers.
So we proposed at Rocket Ship that our first year schools would realize a 775 API, year 2 schools, so in their second year, an 825, and year 3 plus 875 API. And I think those are very serious metrics. Si se puede. So all of our schools currently meet those metrics, have met those standards. Si se puede has to make some gains in order to realize those metrics in the third year. And we're confident that they're going to do that. What we've also proposed in the contract is if a school, an existing school, fails to meet those standards, then a future charter that has not been opened yet would be lost. We would not be able to open those schools. So it would actually slow down our growth, and it would be a 1-to-1 comparison point.
Okay, so let me just recap. You're going to open 3 schools next year, and you're going to track them, and 5 more and 5 more. At some point, you realize that your students are keeping up with your benchmark, that you're going to be holding off opening the additional schools. So then whatever is approved following years will also be pushed out as well. Is that what you're saying?
We would actually not just push out, we wouldn't open those schools. We wouldn't open those schools.
Tonight, I'm going to vote no on Rocket Ship 9 and potentially vote no on all of them. As recent as last week, I thought I was going to vote yes in favor of, if not all, at least 10 of them. Then I found out that I could not trust them anymore. And Preston cannot look me in the eyes, and Evan cannot look me in the eyes tonight, because as recent as last week, I had lunch with them, and I shared my thoughts, and I shared my advices, and I shared where I think I'm going. The next day, I got a phone call such as, "Did you know?" And the "did you know" phone call is that Rocket Ship, the very Rocket Ship that we approved last month, went behind our backs, despite Dr. Weiss and his staff telling them, "No, you cannot use our board's resolution. No, we won't support this." They still went about making arguments that they are, in fact, a district. You are not a local school district. And the argument that your attorney made about being a school district is a tremendous misstep, a tremendous miscalculation on your strategic part. I cannot emphasize that enough. I can't find words to describe how disappointed I am. I don't know how you and I will begin to repair this damaged working relationship. I can't find ways right now, today. You are not a district. You don't have elected governing board members. But more so, you are not a district, because I've heard threats from you that if this approval process becomes this difficult in this county, in this state, we're just packing up and leaving and go to some other state that's easier. Local school districts cannot make that threat. They stay here. They are here no matter how difficult it is, how challenging it is. So by that fact of what my witnesses and my experiences has been, you are not a local school district. And as long as you make that assertion that you are like a local school district and therefore you have this right with County of Santa Clara or City of San Jose, I will not support you anymore. So I like to read some, I have a page. I won't read all of it, and I'll just enter in. As a trustee serving on the Santa Clara County Board of Education for 11 years, I, Anna Song, have supported all of Rocketship's previous county benefit charter applications and district benefit charter appeals that have come before the County Board of Education. I continue to support well-planned and legally compliant charter school applications. However, I do not believe it would be in our community's best interest for this board to vote today in favor of Rocketship's request for 20 county benefit charter schools for the following reasons. And I'll just read bullet points. Unreasonable expansion plan without proven infrastructure. Insufficient oversight agreement between County Board of Education and Rocketship. Lack of prominent statement of meaningful interested for each specific charter school from the signature gathered by parents or teachers. By the way, it is SCCOE, County Board of Education, that approves of charter, not SCCOE. You better make that correction too. Insufficient information on governance structure, potential Brown Act violations, and so forth. This is not the time for civil disobedience to our duty to uphold the county benefit charter requirements of state education code. I ask this board to disapprove all 20 petitions and direct staff to prepare written findings consistent with these points and to present them to this board for adoption. I will enter in as a public record. So there's allegations about potentially violating Brown Act, and wanted to go back to the issue of your governance structure and your term of Rocketship Education Board and Rocketship School Board. And you've also mentioned Rocketship National Board, and in the petition it says also Rocketship California Board. Some word included California in refer to your governance structure. To a 12-year veteran county board, it is extremely confusing to parse through what you're referring to and which board has which authority, and never mind to add 20 additional potential school site board. So it is problematic. But when this allegation is surfacing, it is talking about, I believe, your national board that held meetings in shiny, members-only Silicon Valley Club and 20 miles away from your schools.